Right in the middle of a deep river, a canoe was floating. With one mean, wicked push, a stepmother tried to ruin her stepdaughter's future. The young girl screamed out loud, but nobody heard her except for the cruel woman who shoved her. The stepmother just hissed and tightened the head tie on her head. "My daughter is going to marry the prince, not you," she muttered. But why did she hate the girl so much? Why was there so much anger and fire in her eyes? Hey everyone, welcome back to African Stories, Touch. Please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with your family and friends. Also, don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss any of our amazing stories. Now, sit back and listen closely, because this story is going to leave you totally speechless. A long time ago, in a village called Ani, where the morning fog covered the ground heavily like it didn't want to leave, a baby prince was born. Everyone was incredibly happy that day. You could hear kids laughing everywhere, and the sweet smell of fresh palm wine filled the air around the bamboo trees. Right in the middle of the big party, the royal family made a huge announcement. They were going to hold a big dance contest on the prince's 25th birthday to pick his wife. And just like that, everyone started getting ready. Mothers started styling their daughters, brothers watched over their sisters, and fathers prayed that their family names would become famous. Around that same time, in the home of the late Chief Okafor, two young girls were growing up together. Nidi, she was the daughter of his second wife. She was very proud, totally spoiled, and raised to think the world owed her everything. Adaugo, she was the daughter of his late first wife. She was incredibly sweet, with a beauty so pure it made even the moon jealous. Even though they lived under the same roof, their mother treated them completely differently. While Nidi spent all her days putting on makeup and painting her nails, Adaugo did all the house chores and cooked all the meals. Adaugo was a very cheerful girl, and everybody loved her. She always greeted the elders with respect and helped old women carry their heavy firewood. Whenever she laughed, people couldn't help but notice and smile. Soon, people started whispering that Adaugo might be the one to catch the prince's attention. This news made the stepmother furious. It hurt her like rubbing hot pepper into an open wound. "How dare another woman's child do better than my own daughter?" she angrily muttered to herself. From then on, every nice thing Adaugo did just made her stepmother more and more jealous. To make things worse, Nidi looked plain and dull next to Adaugo. Nidi's dancing was stiff, and even her smile couldn't compete with her stepsister's. So, when it was finally time for the young girls to show up for the prince's dance contest, the stepmother made a wicked decision. Adaugo had to disappear. One morning, just as the sun was making the sky look beautiful and golden, the stepmother called Adaugo into her room. "Today, my child," the stepmother said, wearing a fake smile that was way too sweet to be true, "we are going fishing together. The prince's festival is coming up soon, and you need to learn how to do a woman's chores." This made Adaugo so happy inside. She had always wanted love and any little sign that her stepmother cared about her. "Yes, Mama," she replied softly. She had absolutely no idea that behind her back, intense jealousy was twisting like a snake inside the older woman's chest. Adaugo carefully balanced a woven basket on her head and followed her stepmother down the narrow walking path. Soon, they reached the canoe. The river was wide and deep, looking mysterious as if it held secrets only spirits knew. Adaugo stepped into the boat carefully, her wrapper touching the wooden sides. Her stepmother got in behind her, and her gold bangles made a jingling sound that felt like they were laughing at her. The canoe slowly floated out to the middle of the river. The water was quiet, way too quiet. Even the sounds of the birds felt like they were warning her. "Lean closer, my child," the stepmother said, using a very fake, gentle voice. "Look at how the fish are shining under the water. Bend down and take a look." Adaugo leaned over, and her eyes went wide when she saw the silver fish swimming below. But before she could even say a word, two strong hands pushed her hard from behind. "Ah, Mama!" she screamed, waving her arms wildly in the air as she fell backward into the water. Splash! The deep water swallowed her up completely. The river rippled for a moment, and then went totally still. Only bubbles came up to the top, and then everything was completely quiet. "My daughter will marry the prince, not you," the stepmother yelled. She fixed her head tie, turned the canoe around toward the shore, and rowed away without looking back even once. Back at the house, the stepmother sat down and rubbed shea butter all over Needy's skin while whispering lies into her ear. "Remember, my child, the prince is going to pick you. He has to. Your stepsister is gone forever. The river has swallowed her up, and along with her, any threat to your future." Needy smiled, but deep down inside, she felt nervous and unsure. That is because jealousy makes people blind and tricks foolish people into thinking they have already won. When the day of the dance contest finally arrived, the palace grounds were shaking with loud music. The drums were booming, the flutes were playing, and young girls were spinning around in outfits brighter than a rainbow. One by one, they walked up, bowing and smiling, hoping the prince would notice them. But the prince was getting tired of watching them. To him, a beautiful face without a good personality was like eating plain yam without palm oil. It fills your stomach, but it has absolutely no taste. Meanwhile, back in the deep river, it was completely dark around Adaugo. Cold water filled her ears, and her lungs felt like they were burning. She truly thought she was going to die, but right then, a warm, familiar hand gently touched her cheek. Adaugo slowly opened her eyes. She realized she wasn't drowning anymore. She was actually lying on a beautiful, glowing bed of lilies right under the water. Surprisingly, she could breathe perfectly, as if the river itself was giving her air. Above her, a bright light shone like moonlight reflecting on glass. "Mama?" Adaugo whispered. Out of the shadows, a bright figure stepped forward. Her wrapper was shining with beads of light, and her face was glowing with a magical beauty. It was her late mother, smiling at her with sad eyes. "Yes, my child," her mother said softly. "Don't be afraid. I have seen you cry, and I know all the mean things they have done to you." Adaugo's lips started shaking. Am I dead?" she asked. The spirit gently shook her head and said, "No, not yet. Your destiny won't let you die. Your journey is actually just starting." With a simple wave of her hand, Adaugo's plain clothes started to shine, turning into beautiful, flowing clothing made with gold and coral beads. Her hair began to sparkle with beads that jingled softly. In that exact moment, the simple village girl turned into a stunning, royal sight. Adaugo looked absolutely radiant and beautiful. No one could look away from her. "Mama, what is this?" Adaugo asked in wonder. Her mother's spirit held up a small bottle filled with a glowing liquid. She gently tipped it and placed it into Adaugo's hands. "Drink this, my child," the spirit said. "This potion will take you straight to the palace where the prince is looking for his true bride. You will shine brighter than every other girl there." Adaugo lifted the bottle to her lips and swallowed the liquid. She let out a sharp breath. Suddenly, a wave of power rushed through her entire body, and her eyes started glowing bright like stars in the night sky. But then, her mother's voice became serious and deep. "Listen to me carefully, my daughter. When you get to the palace, the king's big drums will beat 6 times. At the exact moment the 6th drum beats, all of this magic will disappear. Your beauty, your beautiful gown, and your crown will all be gone. You must leave the palace before the last sound fades away. If you don't, everyone will see who you really are." "I will do exactly what you say, Mama," Adaugo promised. The spirit gently touched Adaugo's forehead with one glowing finger. There was a sudden burst of bright light, and the river completely faded away. In the very next blink of an eye, Adaugo was standing right in the middle of the palace courtyard. She was dazzling, looking as bright as the sun itself. Her gown looked like it was made of woven sunlight, her skin shone like polished bronze, and the beads in her hair made soft, beautiful sounds. The drummers were so shocked they missed a beat. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing for a second. "Who is she?" the prince whispered to himself. His heart started beating fast, matching the rhythm of the drums. Without hesitating for a second, he stood up and pushed his way through the crowd. His eyes were locked onto her. Adaugo looked down shyly. But when the prince reached her, he held out his hand. Dance with me, he said. The drums started beating loudly again, and the flutes started playing beautiful music. The two of them began to move together. Their dance steps were perfectly in sync, almost as if the gods themselves were guiding their feet. Everyone in the courtyard was whispering in surprise, and all the other young girls became completely green with jealousy. Boom. The first big drum sounded. It was a hidden warning inside the music. Adaugo's heart skipped a beat, but she kept on dancing. When the music slowed down, the prince led her out into the royal garden. The silver moonlight shone down on them, and water was bubbling softly next to where they stood. I have never seen you in this village before, the prince said gently. Tell me your name. Tell me where you come from. Adaugo bit her lip and stayed completely silent. Why are you hiding yourself from me? He asked, reaching out to hold her hand. You have completely captured my heart, beautiful maiden. Please, say something, anything. But Adaugo just kept quiet. Meanwhile, out in the crowd, Needy shoved her way through the people and hissed angrily, who is she? The prince has never looked at anyone like that before. The stepmother's voice started shaking with fear. She looks very familiar, but I can't quite tell who she is. Boom! The drums sounded again. Then the second, third, and fourth drums beat as the night quickly slipped away. Then came the fifth drum. Adaugo panicked. I have to go, she whispered. No, please stay. Stay with me. The prince begged. As they struggled, a golden bangle slid off Adaugo's wrist and fell softly onto the grass. Adaugo's eyes went wide with fear. Forgive me, she said with a shaking breath. She pulled herself away and ran off into the dark night. Wait, the prince shouted, picking up the golden bangle. His chest was heavy and his heart was burning with love. Breathing heavily, he said, whoever you are, I will find you, even if I have to search to the very ends of the earth. Just as the sixth drum sounded, Adaugo vanished into the night. Her beautiful gown turned back into her old, plain clothes and her crown disappeared. But her future was now officially tied to the prince, who was holding her secret. The prince held the golden bangle tightly and pressed it against his chest. His eyes were full of determination. With this bangle, he said quietly to himself, I will find her, even if I have to search to the very ends of the earth. She belongs to me. Outside the palace, hiding in the dark shadows, the stepmother screamed out in anger. No. That girl must never come back. If she returns, my daughter's future will be totally ruined. But you cannot stop destiny, you can only delay it. Nobody slept at the palace that night. The prince stood in the courtyard, looking at the golden bangle shining in his hand. Bring me the young girl who wore this, he ordered his guards. Search every single village, and look along all the riverbanks. I will not rest until I find her. The king's messengers rode out as fast as lightning with their torches burning bright in the dark. The news spread everywhere like wildfire. The prince is looking for the mysterious girl from the dance. Whoever can fit this golden bangle will become the new queen. Back at the house of the late Chief Okafor, this news hit them like a loud clap of thunder. The stepmother was so shocked that she dropped her clay water pot on the floor. She stood there shaking, whispering in absolute terror. No, no, this can't be happening, the stepmother whispered in fear, but her daughter, Needy, saw a big opportunity. Mother, that bangle has to belong to me. We need to go and claim it before she even tries to show her face. The stepmother's eyes narrowed into an evil look. She grabbed Needy by the wrist. Then we have to act fast. If Adaugo is still breathing, she must not live to see tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Adaugo was hiding inside the small hut of an old woman who lived by the riverside. She was shivering under a faded, old wrapper. The magic her mother gave her had completely worn off, but inside her heart, the fire of her destiny was still burning bright. The old woman wept softly for her. My child, your stepmother's heart is sharper and meaner than a cutlass. If she finds out you are alive, she will try to hurt you again. Adaugo reached into her bag and pulled out the second golden bangle of the pair. But the prince saw me, Adaugo said softly. He will keep searching until he finds me. The next morning, the royal guards arrived in the village. They carried the golden bangle carefully on a royal stool, and every young girl in the village was called to try it on point. One by one, the girls stepped forward. They stretched and twisted their feet, but the bangle refused to fit any of them. Then, Needy walked up. She was dressed in expensive silk and her skin was oiled from head to toe. "Your search is finally over," she bragged to the guards. "I am the one the prince is looking for." Everyone held their breath to watch. Needy bent down and slid her foot inside the bangle. Crack! The golden bangle split right in two. A shocked whisper spread through the crowd like wind blowing through leaves. "The gods have rejected her," one of the village elders declared. The stepmother fell straight to her knees, clutching the broken piece of the bangle with wild, crazy eyes. That night, the village went completely quiet. The river seemed to whisper dark secrets, and owls hooted in the trees as a warning. Inside a small hut lit by a flickering palm oil lamp, the stepmother crouched down in front of a black pot. Needy sat in the corner, shaking with fear. "Mother, do we really have to do this?" Needy asked. "Do you want the prince to marry Adaugo?" the stepmother hissed angrily. "Do you want to live in her shadow forever?" She threw a red cloth into the boiling pot, crushed a kola nut into it, and started chanting words that human beings are forbidden to speak. The pot hissed loudly. Thick smoke coiled up into the air like a snake, and strange faces seemed to form in the mist, whispering in tongues that no one could understand. "This is the charm of disappearance," the stepmother muttered with an evil grin. "The next time she shows her face, the spirits will swallow up all her beauty and leave her as nothing but a shadow." "But, mother, what if the gods are watching us?" Needy asked nervously. "Then let them watch," the stepmother snapped. "I will never let a dead woman's child become greater than my own blood." Meanwhile, out in the dark forest, Adaugo was sitting by a small fire. The calabash her mother gave her was glowing faintly right beside her. Suddenly, she felt the air get tight and heavy. Her heart started racing. First came a whisper, then a distant echo. Then, she heard it, a drum. It was beating slowly and far away. Then, her mother's voice came traveling through the wind. "My child, wicked people are plotting against you. But do not be afraid. Light can never be hidden by darkness." Suddenly, the fire shot up incredibly high, and sparks of light danced up into the stars. Adaugo closed her eyes tightly and started to pray. She heard a loud crackling sound and took a breathless gasp. At that exact moment, back in the hut, the magic pot holding the evil charm shattered into pieces. The smoke let out a screaming sound and vanished into thin air. Far away, the stepmother gasped in sudden pain and clutched her chest. "No! No! Who is protecting this girl?" she screamed. Only the spirits knew the answer. Destiny was already calling for Adaugo. The very next day, while Adaugo was fetching water from the stream, a royal parade appeared on the path. Leading the group was the prince himself. His eyes were scanning the crowd, hungry with hope. The moment he saw Adaugo, he stopped completely. Even though she looked like a simple village girl by the river, she was so radiant that his heart started thundering with excitement. He got down from his horse, his boots sinking into the soft mud. Step by step, he walked closer to her. The villagers started whispering to each other. "Is she really the one? She looks way too simple. But look at how he can't take his eyes off her." Finally, the prince stood right in front of Adaugo. "I have searched every single corner of this kingdom," he said softly. "But my heart tells me it has been waiting right here, by this river." "I am nobody special, my prince," Adaugo said, looking down. "I am just a simple girl from the forest." The prince smiled warmly. "Then the forest has just given me its greatest treasure." He pulled out the broken golden bangle. "Tell me, have you ever seen the maiden who owns this?" The whole world seemed to stand completely still. Adaugo's hand started to tremble. Her lips opened, and she was just about to speak. "She is lying," a loud voice screamed. Everyone turned around to look. It was the stepmother. Her eyes were burning with pure anger, and her veil was flying wildly in the wind. Needy followed closely behind her, looking pale and completely silent. "She is not an honorable girl," the stepmother shrieked, pointing a finger at Adaugo. "She used witchcraft and evil charms to trick the prince. My daughter Needy was the one chosen by the gods." Hearing this, the prince's jaw tightened in anger. The prince looked directly at Adaugo. "Is this true?" he asked her softly, taking a shaky breath. Adaugo closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was low but very strong. "I live out here in the forest because you tried to kill me by pushing me into the river," she said, looking at her stepmother. The whole world seemed to freeze. The villagers gasped in shock. Even Needy covered her mouth with her hands, trembling all over. Adaugo stepped forward, with tears shining in her eyes. "Yes, my prince, I am the girl who danced with you, and I am the girl who lost that golden bangle. I can show you proof right now if you want. My name is Adaugo, and I was betrayed by the woman who was supposed to be a mother to me." "Lies. All lies," the stepmother screamed at the top of her lungs, but right then, the river began to ripple. A bright light started shimmering on the water. Out of the glow, a figure rose up into the air. It was the spirit of Adaugo's late mother. "These are not lies," the spirit said, her voice echoing. "She is telling the absolute truth." The villagers immediately fell to their knees in respect. The prince stepped back, completely full of awe. The stepmother screamed as the bright spirit light shone directly onto her. "Mama Needy," the spirit thundered. "Your jealousy is darker than midnight. You plotted, you lied, and you tried to get rid of another woman's child. But the truth can never drown. Evil can never silence destiny." Adaugo whispered softly, "Mother." The prince raised the golden bangle high into the air. "I don't need any more proof," he declared loudly. "This bangle belongs to the true maiden, and my heart belongs to Adaugo." The crowd broke out into happy, triumphant cheers. "Adaugo, the true maiden. The queen has been revealed," they shouted. The stepmother shrieked in anger, "No, this cannot be happening. I will never bow down to her." But the river water rushed up and forced her down to her knees. Slowly, the spirit's voice began to fade away into the air. "Let her carry her own shame. As for my daughter, her crown is waiting for her." The river became calm again, and everything went completely silent. The prince turned to face the crowd. "By the gods and the spirits who have spoken today," he said, "I declare Adaugo as my chosen bride, my queen, and the mother of our future generations." Then, he turned to the stepmother with a cold, serious look on his face. "You will pack your things and leave this village immediately. Take nothing with you except your shame." The villagers shouted loudly in agreement. The stepmother screamed out, but absolutely nobody stepped forward to help her. Even her own daughter, Needy, turned away from her with tears in her eyes. The prince lifted Adaugo's hand high into the air. The palace drums started thundering again in a huge celebration. Adaugo's eyes shone with tears as she looked back toward the river. There, in the gentle ripples of the water, her mother's smiling face beamed back at her. The beautiful crown of destiny had finally found the right head. And just like that, the rule of a wonderful new queen began, a queen who was born not from jealousy, but from truth, courage, and the deep love of a mother whose voice could not be silenced even by death. And that, my people, is exactly how Adaugo became a queen. It is a story about truth, courage, and a destiny that refused to drown. Always remember this: no matter how deep jealousy tries to hide itself, light will always rise to the top again. Just like it happened to Adaugo, your destiny might be delayed, but it can never be denied. If this story touched your heart today, please don't just leave. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to hear that truth always wins at the end of the day. Tell me, my digital family, what lesson did you learn from Adaugo's journey? Drop all your thoughts in the comments section below, because every single story we share here carries a special lesson for the soul. Until next time, keep your heart pure, keep your spirit strong, and always remember, destiny will always find its way home.